Let's go ahead and go to the senator now. Senator John McCain. Good morning, sir, and welcome back to the John Justice Show. And how are you this morning?
Fine, John. And by the way, on the issue of Pat Tillman's death, a great American hero and a wonderful person, and the issue was very badly mishandled, to say the least, by the United States Army. But General McChrystal did not have an active role in that. He signed off in the chain of command, but we had extensive hearings and questions about that when he was nominated for his present job. That's just not. So it's just not true.
Thank you very much for clearing that up via that email that I just read. Senator John McCain, of course, we've been talking about the meeting just ended with General McChrystal and President Barack Obama. What's your take on this whole situation?
Well, my take is that it's terribly unfortunate, and it's especially the timing is really unfortunate because, as you know, we are about to launch a major offensive into Kandahar, which would largely would determine the outcome of this conflict, and the whole thing is just so unfortunate. But I do respect the president's authority as president of the United States and commander-in-chief, and whatever decision he makes, I will not dispute.
Do you think that General McChrystal should be fired and/or resign?
John, I don't duck questions, but that is a decision that only the President of the United States can make. He has all the facts. He has all the information. The rest of us do not, and he was, as you know, the decision was made to make him president rather than me in November of 2008. So I cannot second-guess the president on this.
Are you surprised that at the comments that were made and to a reporter, to Rolling Stone, a lot of the phone calls that we've gotten this morning, and it seems like there's a lot of people have a very pointed opinion, and that is, much like you were saying, you know, there has to be a level of respect to the presidency, regardless of who is serving in the Oval Office and your opinion of that individual. When you're in a position like General McChrystal, you know, there are ways of doing things and ways not to, and ways that you shouldn't be doing things. Are you surprised that these comments were made so public to a paper like Rolling Stone?
Frankly, I'm very surprised that a reporter from Rolling Stone, especially with this one's background, which you could Google nowadays, was given the access that he was. I was also disappointed that members of the military, and these were General McChrystal's staff, would make comments about a civilian leadership. You just can't do it. I served in the military for a long time, as you know. And there is in our fundamental of our government and United States of America is civilian authority, and that means that if you disagree, you resign, and then you're free to do or say whatever you want. But as long as you're in uniform and you've taken an oath, then you have to not try to undermine or do something that would even inadvertently undermine civilian authority. Could I just add one point here?
Absolutely.
That's very important. The President of the United States made a terrible mistake in his speech at West Point, in my view, when he said we would be leaving in the middle of 2011. Mm-hmm. In this article, as you know, Biden, Vice President, and I'm not a member of the military. I do represent Arizona and the young men and women who are serving, and it was Biden's statement, you can bet on it, we're going to see a whole lot of people leave in the middle of 2011, shows the dramatic difference between someone like General Petraeus, who says it has to be condition-based. In other words, the conditions have to be right for our withdrawal, not based on an arbitrary date. And what it has done, the president's insistence on this, has undermined our friends, encouraged our enemies, caused a lot of the behavior you've seen on Karzai's part, because they don't believe that we're staying, that to get the job done. So the president of the United States has to resolve these differences that exist between the civilian side, including the embassy and others, over in Afghanistan, but most importantly, he has to tell our enemies and friends, we're going to get the job done. Instead, he insists on saying we're going to leave on an arbitrary date. And I will tell you now, I would rather us leave immediately than have this arbitrary date stand, which would guarantee failure and further loss of America's most precious treasure, American lives.
Do you see any immediate detrimental ramifications to this whole situation playing out when it comes to the effort in Afghanistan right now? Is this sort of happening off to the side, and we'll continue moving forward with what we're doing in Afghanistan?
The Afghans are paying close attention. If you might notice, President Karzai yesterday issued a statement saying that General McChrystal was the best military leader that he knew. This thing has ramifications all over the world. We are the world's leader, and have no doubt that in Afghanistan they'll be watching, and not only our friends, but the Taliban and Al Qaeda as well. This is really an interesting moment, to say the least. But again, the men and women can do the job. I am not satisfied with the embassy there, the actions that they've taken. I'm not satisfied with the civilian side, the diplomatic side of the equation. And if we continue to say that America troops are going to begin withdrawing in the middle of next year, no matter what, we are doomed to failure.
This may seem a little, I don't want to say hypothetical, but I'm just going to kind of give you a gut reaction that I'm having just in speaking to you right now, Senator John McCain. But you look at the comments that were made, and I mentioned this a little earlier in the show, the comments that were made by General McChrystal, they echo a lot of what many people feel about President Barack Obama. You look at the federal judge blocking Obama's offshore drilling moratorium in the Gulf of Mexico, the way that whole situation's been handled. You're hearing that Interior Secretary Ken Salazar says they're going to issue a new order. Regardless of that, none of this looks good for us as the United States of America and what is happening right now when it comes to our presidency and just the view of the rest of the world right now. I mean, it's apparent that, I mean, if you're on the outside looking in, it's a mess right now. I guess I don't have so much a question, Senator McCain. I'm just sitting back looking at this as a bystander going, wow, we're in a really, really bad spot at the moment.
I think we are, and I think that this administration, again, this blanket moratorium without justification, as the federal judge pointed out, is an example of this administration's overreach. In other words, America is a right of center nation. This administration is governing from the left, and it's part, again, of this whole belief, whether it be Obamacare or increases in spending or expansion in the size of government, taking over General Motors and Chrysler, or the belief on the part of this president and his administration that government knows best. And America does not believe in that. We believe that the people know best, and that's why you're seeing the Tea Parties, you're seeing these election results, which no one predicted as short a time as 6 months to a year ago. This administration is governing from the left and believes in big government, and that government is the solution. And government is not the solution. The people are the solution.
Getting back to some issues here in Arizona, Mexico, with their asking the federal judge to strike down SB 1070. I have a news story here in front of me that we'll talk about a little bit more at length. The Mexican drug cartels are threatening Nogales police on the Arizona side. Are we making any headway when it comes to the border security, border enforcement? Again, I look at the story what's happening in Nogales, Arizona. You've got the cartels threatening us on the Arizona side, where the police chief in Nogales is telling his officers to make sure that they are armed when they're not on duty, because there are calls against their life when they're not out doing their job.
This is a case, John. This is a glaring example of what you just said, of the administration's failure to get it. Yes, the border is, quote, more secure in the Yuma sector, in San Diego and other areas, but they don't take into account this dramatic rise over the last 3 years or so of the power, influence, cruelty, barbarity, inspired corruption of these drug cartels. These are the most vicious people in the world, and when they are able to threaten the lives of Nogales police, and I don't take that threat lightly, when we have to put up signs south of Interstate 8 that people should be careful traveling in the United States for human smuggling and drug smugglers, when this violence has killed 23,000 people in Mexico and 3 American citizens in Juarez and a rancher in Arizona, this violence and this threat of drug cartels and who are now doing the human smuggling, as you know, they're tied together, that when they don't take that into account, they don't understand the enormity of the problem with the rise and strength and effectiveness and cruelty and barbarity of these drug cartels. Why should Phoenix, Arizona be the second, number 2 kidnapping capital of the world? Does that mean we've got a safe border?
Yeah.
So they don't get it. They don't get it. And it's very unfortunate when the deputy head of the Border Patrol, Mr. Aguilar, says it's words something along the lines that part of Arizona is sort of like a third world country or something like that. What's that all about? Are we condemning our citizens to live in an environment of insecurity? John Kyle and I were down on the border last Saturday. We heard from the ranchers and the people there. They are very upset. They have every reason to be. I don't think anyone in Washington that's making policy has to have a fear of home invasion, of their wildlife refuges being destroyed, of the kinds of things that are happening, and the increasing threat of these drug cartels. You see my point?
Yeah.
And that's what they don't get, and I wish that they would, and I wish that especially our Secretary of Homeland Security, who should know better, would understand the threat. These drug cartel people have better communications, better organization, and many times they're very well armed, and we shouldn't be putting our Border Patrol and others down there in harm's way without making sure that they are secure as well. And, of course, that means getting the guard to the border.
Senator John McCain, before we let you go this morning, I want to talk just briefly with you on something that we're doing here at 104.1 The Truth. Are you familiar with the Honor Flight program to send our World War II veterans to Washington, D.C.?
Yes, and I am sending you money, and I'm grateful for the fact that you want to do that. I would urge our listeners, our World War II vets are our greatest generation, our inspiration. They inspire me, they inspire my children, and they will inspire our grandchildren. And this, what you are doing to give them a chance to see the memorial, and it is a magnificent memorial, is the Lord's work. And I'm grateful that you're doing, and I want everybody to open up your wallets and your credit cards and rub the numbers off and get some contributions in, and we'll be sending you a couple of $100 too to see if we can't help. But most importantly, this is a noble cause you're embarked on, and I'm always deeply moved and touched by anything we can do to show our appreciation for these Americans who made the world safe for democracy.
And as you know, sir, we're losing them at such a rapid rate,
yes.
And time's critical. At the website 1041thetruth.com, there's a link right there on the homepage for Honor Flight, as we help out with the Southern Arizona chapter and try to get as many of our Southern Arizona World War II vets to Washington D.C. this September. As always, Thursday, sir, thank you so much for taking the time out this morning.
And thank you John, for your leadership in making sure that this Honor Flights allows every one of our World War II veterans who wants to be able to come.
Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Thanks, John. Bye.